I'm still chugging my water because I had a little accident this morning. So I'm running a little behind. Oh. Now I can have my coffee. I started my coffee pot to brew 37 ounces of coffee with nothing but my coffee mug under it. I burnt my finger. I got coffee everywhere you can imagine. And then I accidentally hit yes to the update on my iPhone when I woke up. So that took me an hour and a half of messing around. Oh my gosh. So I'm here, but it took me a minute. Good morning. Hey guys. All right. Yeah, my whole house, like, it's not just like this light scent of coffee. It's like all I can smell is coffee because it's on my shirt. I burnt my hand, and when I burnt my hand, I whipped my hand around and grabbed the back of wiped off the back of my hand real quick on my shirt, so there's coffee all over my back. And there's 37 ounces of coffee on my rug behind my chair. So stupid. Oh my word. All right. April 12th. King Saul's family tree. 1 Chronicles 9:35 through 39. Jael, the father of Gibeon, lived in the town of Gibeon. His wife's name was Maacah, and his oldest son was named Abdon. Jael's other sons were Zur, Kish, Baal, Ner, Nadab, Gedor, Ahio, Zechariah, and Mikloth. Mikloth was the father of Shimeam. All these families lived near each other in Jerusalem. Ner was the father of Kish. Kish was the father of Saul. Saul was the father of Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbaal. Continued war in Philistia. 1 Samuel 13, 1 through 5. Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 42 years. Saul selected 3,000 special troops from the army of Israel and sent the rest of the men home. He took 2,000 of the chosen men with him to Michmash in the hill country of Bethel. The other 1,000 went with Saul's son Jonathan to Gibeah in the land of Benjamin. Soon after this, Jonathan attacked and defeated the garrison of the Philistines at Geba. The news spread quickly among the Philistines. So Saul blew a ram's horn throughout the land, saying, "Hebrews, hear this. Rise up in revolt." All Israel heard the news that Saul had destroyed the Philistine garrison at Geba, and that the Philistines now hated the Israelites more than ever. So the entire Israelite army was summoned to join Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines mustered a mighty army of 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and as many warriors as the grains of sand on the seashore. They camped at Michmash, east of Beth-aven. 1 Samuel 13, 19 through 23. There were no blacksmiths in the land of Israel in those days. The Philistines wouldn't allow them for fear that they would make swords and spears for the Hebrews. So whenever the Israelites needed to sharpen their plowshares, picks, axes, or sickles, they had to take them to a Philistine blacksmith. The charges were as follows: 1/4 of an ounce of silver for sharpening a plowshare or a pick, 1/8 of an ounce for sharpening an axe or making a point of an ox goad. So on the day of battle, none of the people of Israel had a sword or spear except for Saul and Jonathan. The pass at Michmash had meanwhile been secured by a contingent of the Philistine army. 1 Samuel 13, 6 through 7a. The men of Israel saw a tight spot they were in, because they were hard pressed by the enemy. They had tried to hide in caves, thickets, rocks, holes, and cisterns. Some of them crossed the Jordan River and escaped into the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul's disobedience and Samuel's rebuke. 1 Samuel 13, 7b through 14. Meanwhile, Saul stayed at Gilgal, and his men were trembling with fear. Saul waited there for 7 days for Samuel, as Samuel had instructed him earlier, but Samuel still didn't come. Saul realized that his troops were rapidly slipping away, so he demanded, "Bring me a burnt offering and the peace offerings," and Saul sacrificed the burnt offering himself. Just as Saul was finishing with the burnt offering, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet and welcome him, but Samuel said, "What is this that you have done?" Saul replied, "I saw my men scattering from me, and you didn't arrive when you said you would, and the Philistines are at Michmash ready for battle. So I said, the Philistines are ready to march against us at Gilgal, and I haven't even asked for the Lord's help. So I felt compelled to offer a burnt offering myself before you came." "How foolish!" Samuel exclaimed. "You have not kept the command of the Lord your God that the Lord your God gave you. Had you kept it, the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom must end, for the Lord has sought out a man after his own heart. The Lord has already appointed him to be the leader of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command." Israel's military disadvantage. 1 Samuel 13:15-18. Samuel then left Gilgal and went on his way, but the rest of the troops went with Saul to meet the army. They went up from Gilgal to Gibeah in the land of Benjamin. When Saul counted the men who were still with him, he found only 600 were left. Saul and Jonathan and the troops with them were staying at Gibeah in the land of Benjamin. The Philistines set up their camp at Michmash. 3 raiding parties soon left the camp of the Philistines. One went north towards Ophrah in the land of Shual, another went west to Beth Horon, and the third moved towards the border above the valley of Zeboim, near the wilderness. Jonathan's daring plan, 1 Samuel 14:1-15. One day Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come, let's go over to where the Philistines have their outpost." But Jonathan did not tell his father what he was doing. Meanwhile, Saul and 600 of his men were camped on the outskirts of Gibeah, around the pomegranate tree at Migron. Among Saul's men was Ahijah the priest, who was wearing the ephod, the priestly vest. Ahijah was the son of Ichabod's brother Ahitub, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of the Lord who had served at Shiloh. No one realized that Jonathan had left the Israelite camp. To reach the Philistine outpost, Jonathan had to go down between the 2 rocky cliffs that were called Bozez and Sina. The cliff of the north was in front of Michmash, and the one on the south was in front of Gibeah. "Let's go across the outpost of those pagans," Jonathan said to his armor-bearer. "Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. He can win a battle, whether he has many warriors or only a few." "Do what you think is best," the armor-bearer replied. "I'm with you completely, whatever you decide." "All right then," Jonathan told him. "We will cross over and let them see us. If they say to us, 'Stay where you are or we'll kill you,' then we will stop and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up and fight,' then we will go up. That will be the Lord's sign that he will help us defeat them." When the Philistines saw them coming, they shouted, "Look, the Hebrews are crawling out of their holes." These men from the outpost shouted to Jonathan, "Come up here, and we will teach you a lesson." "Come on, climb right behind me," Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "for the Lord will help us defeat them." So they climbed up using both hands and feet, and the Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer killed those who came behind them. They killed some 20 men in all, and their bodies were scattered over about half an acre. Suddenly, panic broke out in the Philistine army, both in the camp and in the field, including the outposts and the raiding parties, and just then an earthquake struck, and everyone was terrified. Israel defeats the Philistines, 1 Samuel 14:16-23. Saul's lookouts at Gibeah of Benjamin saw a strange sight. The vast army of the Philistines began to melt away in every direction. Call the roll and find out who's missing," Saul ordered, and when they checked, they found that Jonathan and his armor-bearer were gone. Then Saul shouted to Ahijah, "Bring the ephod here," for at that time Ahijah was wearing the ephod in front of the Israelites. But while Saul was talking to the priest, the confusion in the Philistine camp grew louder and louder. So Saul said to the priest, "Never mind, let's get going." Then Saul and his men rushed out to battle and found the Philistines killing each other. There was terrible confusion everywhere. Even the Hebrews, who had previously gone over to the Philistine army, revolted and turned in with Saul, Jonathan, and the rest of the Israelites. Likewise, the men of Israel who were hiding in the hill country of Ephraim joined the chase when they saw the Philistine army running away. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle continued to rage even beyond Beth-aven. Saul's foolish oath. 1 Samuel 14:24-46. Now the men of Israel were pressed to exhaustion that day, because Saul had placed them under an oath, saying, "Let a curse fall on anyone who eats before evening, before I have full revenge on my enemies." So no one ate anything at all day, even though they had all found honeycomb on the ground in the forest. They didn't dare touch the honey because they all feared the oath they had taken. But Jonathan had not heard his father's command, and he dipped the end of his stick into a piece of honeycomb and ate the honey. After he had eaten it, he felt refreshed. But one of the men saw him and said, "Your father made the army take a strict oath that anybody who eats today will be cursed. That is why everyone is weary and faint." "My father has made trouble for us all," Jonathan exclaimed. "A command like that only hurts us. See how refreshed I am now that I have eaten this little bit of honey. If the men had been allowed to eat freely from the food they have found among our enemies, think how many more Philistines we could have killed." They chased and killed the Philistines all day from Michmash to Ajalon, growing more and more faint. That evening they rushed for the battle plunder and butchered some sheep, goats, cattle, and calves, but they ate them without draining the blood. Someone reported to Saul, "Look, the men are sinning against the Lord by eating meat that still has blood in it." "That is very wrong," Saul said. "Find a large stone and roll it over here. Then go out among the troops and tell them, 'Bring the cattle, sheep, and goats here to me. Kill them here and drain the blood before you eat them. Do not sin against the Lord by eating the meat with blood still in it." That night, all the troops brought their animals and slaughtered them there. Then Saul built an altar to the Lord, and it was the first of the altars he built to the Lord. Then Saul said, "Let's chase the Philistines all night and plunder them until sunrise. Let's destroy every last one of them." His men replied, "We'll do whatever you think is best." But the priest said, "Let's ask God first." So Saul asked God, "Should we go after the Philistines? Will you help us defeat them?" But God made no reply that day. Then Saul said to the leaders, "Something is wrong. I want my army commanders to come here. We must find out what sin was committed today. I vow by the name of the Lord who rescued Israel that the sinner will surely die, even if it is my own son Jonathan." But no one would tell him what the trouble was. Then Saul said, "Jonathan and I will stand over here, and all of you stand over there." And the people responded to Saul, "Whatever you think is best." Then Saul prayed, "O Lord, God of Israel, please show us who is guilty and who is innocent." Then they cast sacred lots, and Jonathan and Saul were chosen as the guilty ones, and the people were declared innocent. Then Saul said, "Now cast lots again and choose between Jonathan and me." And Jonathan was shown to be the guilty one. "Tell me what you have done," Saul demanded of Jonathan. "I tasted a little honey," Jonathan admitted. "It was only a little bit on the end of my stick. Does that deserve death?" "Yes, Jonathan," Saul said, "you must die. May God strike me and even kill me if you do not die for this." But the people broke in and said to Saul, "Jonathan has won this great victory for Israel. Should he die? Far from it. As surely as the Lord lives, not one hair on his head will be touched. For God helped him do a great deed today." So the people rescued Jonathan, and he was not put to death. Then Saul called back to the army from chasing the Philistines, and the Philistines returned home. Saul's military success, 1 Samuel 14:47-52. Now when Saul had secured his grasp on Israel's throne, he fought against his enemies in every direction, against Moab, Ammon, Edom, and the kings of Zobah, and the Philistines, and wherever he turned, he was victorious. He performed great deeds and conquered the Amalekites, saving Israel from all those who had plundered them. Saul's sons included Jonathan, Ishbosheth, and Malchishua. He also had 2 daughters, Merab, who was older, and Michal. Saul's wife Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz, the commander of Saul's army, was Abner, the son of Saul's uncle Ner. Saul's father Kish and Abner's father Ner were both sons of Abiel. The Israelites fought constantly with the Philistines throughout Saul's lifetime. So whenever Saul observed a young man who was brave and strong, he drafted him into his army. Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't know, Jennifer. It's stupid. Notifications from Facebook are really annoying. I don't know why it does that. I get the notification on YouTube first. That pops up first for me. Oh, it's chilly in here. Okay. Excuse me. I need a little sip of my coffee that betrayed me this morning. All right, I'll start again Monday. Day number 2. I'm excited. All right, replacing my cravings. I roll over and look at the clock. Another day. Beyond all reason and rationality, I slide out of bed and strip off everything that might weigh even the slightest ounce as I head to the scale. Maybe today will be the day the scale will be my friend and not reveal my secrets. Maybe somehow, overnight, the molecular structure of my body shifted, and today I will magically weigh less. But no. I yank out my ponytail holder. Yeah, it's got to weigh something, and I decide to try again. But the scale doesn't change its mind the second time. It's not my friend this day. Vowing to do better, eat healthier, and make good choices, I head to the kitchen only to have my resolve melt, like the icing on the cinnamon rolls my daughter just pulled from the oven. Yum. Oh, who cares what the scale says when this roll speaks such love and deliciousness. 2.5 cinnamon rolls later, I decide tomorrow will be a much better day, and I keep my promises to eat healthier. And since this is my last day to eat what I want, I better live it up. Another cinnamon roll, please. Oh my gosh, I think I might have written this. Maybe I'm Lisa Turkhurst. The next morning, I turn over and look at the clock. Another day. Beyond all reason and rationality, I slide out of bed and strip off everything that might weigh even the slightest ounce as I head to the scale. Maybe today will be the day, but once again it isn't. I yank out my ponytail holder and try again, but no. Vowing to do better, eat healthier, and make good choices, I head into my day only to find myself making more excuses, rationalizations, and promises for later. Always later. And the cycle I've come to hate and feel powerless to stop continues. Who could I talk to about this? If I admit my struggle to my friends, they might try to hold me accountable for the next time we go out. And what if I'm not in the mood to be questioned about my nachos con queso with extra sour cream? I'll just tell them I'll be starting Monday, and they'll be fine with it. They don't think I need to make this change. They don't think I need to make changes. But I did need to make changes. I knew it. Because this wasn't really about the scale. It was about this battle that raged in my heart. I thought about, craved, and arranged my life too much around food. So much so, I knew it was something God was challenging me to surrender to His control. Really surrender. To the point where I'd make radical changes for the sake of my spiritual health, perhaps even more than my physical health. Part of my surrender was asking myself a really raw question. May I ask you the same raw question? Is it possible we love and rely on food more than we love and rely on God? Now, before you throw this book across the room, hear me out. This question is crucial. I had to see the purpose of my struggle as something more than wearing smaller sizes and getting compliments from others. It had to be about something more than just me. I had to get honest enough to admit I relied on food more than I relied on God. Food was my comfort, my reward, my joy. Food was what I turned to in times of stress, sadness, and even in times of happiness. I felt stupid admitting that. I felt like such a spiritual failure. I told a few people about it, and most seemed supportive, but one well-meaning woman quipped what others would echo in the months that followed. You're making this diet thing a spiritual journey? Does God really care about our food? Yes, I think He does. God never intended for us to want anything more than we want Him. Sorry. What? Why are you interrupting? Sorry. God never intended for us to want anything more than we want Him. Just the slightest glimpse into His Word proves that. Look at what the Bible says when God's chosen people, the Israelites, wanted food more than they wanted God. They willfully put God to the test by demanding the food they craved. Psalm 78:18. Yikes. And what became of them? They never reached the promised land. These people wandered in the desert for 40 years, and no one but Joshua and Caleb, the next generation leaders, was allowed to enter the land flowing with milk and honey. I don't know about you, but I don't want to wander in a desert, unable to enter abundant life God has for me because I willfully put him to the test over food. When I started, I knew this battle would be hard, but through it all, I determined to make God my focus. Each time I craved something I knew wasn't part of my plan, I used that craving as a prompt to pray. I craved a lot, so I found myself praying a lot. Don't rush past that last paragraph. I used my cravings for food as a prompting to pray. It was my way of tearing down the tower of impossibility before me and building something new. My tower of impossibility was food. Brick by brick, I imagined myself dismantling the food tower and using those same bricks to build a walkway of prayer, paving the way to victory. Did this simple visualization make it easier? Sometimes it did. Other times, my cravings for unhealthy food made me cry, seriously cry. Sometimes I wound up on the floor in my closet praying with tears running down my face, and I gave myself permission to cry, just like the psalmist. Listen to my words, Lord. Consider my lament. Hear my cry for help. My King and my God, for to you I pray. In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my request before you and wait expectantly. That is exactly what I did. God, I want a biscuit this morning. Instead, I'm eating poached eggs. I'm thankful for these eggs, but I'll be honest in saying my cravings for the other things are hard to resist. But instead of wallowing in what I can't have, I'm making the choice to celebrate what I can have. God, it's 10 a.m. and I'm craving again. I want those snack crackers that are screaming my name. But instead of reaching for them, I'm praying. I'll be honest, I don't want to pray. I want those crackers. But I'll have a handful of almonds and brick by brick, prayer by prayer, lay a path for the victory. God, it's lunchtime and all of my friends are heading out for Mexican. I love Mexican. I could seriously justify a big bowl of chips and guacamole right now. But once again, I'm choosing to pray instead of getting stuck in my craving. God, help me, God, to feel satisfied with healthier choices. And that's how my prayers continued throughout the day, laying my request before God and waiting in expectation. Then, one morning, it finally happened. I got up, and for the first time in a long while, I felt incredibly empowered. I still did the same crazy routine with the scale, no clothes, no ponytail holder, but I only stepped on it once. The numbers hadn't changed yet, but my heart had. One day, a victory tasted better than any of that food I could have ever given up. I had waited in expectation, using prayer as my guide, and I did it. I did it that day, and I did it the next, then the next. When not, why not shoot for 4 victorious days in a row, and then maybe one more? I can't promise you there won't be any more tears. I can't promise the scale will magically drop as quickly as you wish it would, but it will be a start, a really good start. Wow, you guys. I got serious goosebumps right now. Oh my word. This book. Wow, wow, wow. What a chapter. Kayla, I'm not crying, you're crying. That is powerful. That is, I have got, look, can you see the goosebumps on my arm? I am completely covered. That is amazing. Wow. That is some pretty life-changing words. Don't be embarrassed, girl. That is, we all do it. We all do it. We all do the naked way. Okay, maybe if I cut my toenails first. Oh, and let me use the bathroom first, because we all know how much that stuff weighs. Okay, we all do that. I've been doing it for years. I do it for years. I have been stuck at the same weight now for months. Every single day I get up and do exactly what she's talking about. every single day. For the month of March, I didn't do it, and it was freeing to not do it. But every day since March, I've done it. So that is, we are obsessed. We are. Wow. I'm blown away by that chapter. That was powerful. Okay, you guys. Thanks for joining me. This is going to be a good month. This is going to be a good 30 days of devotions. I can tell. Yep, that's what I need to do. I need to just put it away. Yep, put it away. Let it go. Don't need to look at it. Does it really matter? Does the number on the scale really, truly matter? No. I want to be able to say, as a coach, I've lost this much weight. Look at the pounds go down. I want to be able to say that. It's encouraging to others. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm gaining so much more than just weight loss. So I need to put that more into practice. So, all right, you guys, thanks for joining me. We'll be back tomorrow with more devotions, and I can't wait. I might go back and read that chapter a second time. I might do that. I will see you for breakfast in just a few minutes. My plan today is to make something quite fun. I have quail eggs in the fridge that I'm going to cook this morning. I don't know how. I've never done it before, but I'm going to figure it out. So, all right, you guys, I'll see you in a little bit. I love you all. Have a great day.